Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, a UK-based Star Wars podcast with in-depth discussions and analysis, always sprinkled with some silliness. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete.
And I am Jason Hondo Ling.
And we are back with a brand new episode of Star Wars. We've been missing for a few weeks. We've had some illness in the team, but I'm glad to report that we are all back and as healthy as we were beforehand. And of course, in that meantime, a brand new trailer dropped for Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. It came out of nowhere, but maybe we should be getting used to this type of announcement. It's probably the third May the 4th in a row where we're getting an animated anthology series, Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. So it's the third series in this Star Wars Tales collection. Obviously the first one was Tales of the Jedi. The second one was Tales of the Empire, and now we have Tales of the Underworld. We've had the trailer, we've had the poster, and we're going to talk about what we saw in the trailer, we're going to talk about the poster, and we're going to talk about our expectations and our excitement for the show. But just to give you all a run through, so it is Star Wars Tales of the Underworld. It will release on May the 4th, 2025. Star Wars are saying, enter the galaxy's dangerous underworld in this 6-episode journey through the experiences of two iconic villains. Former assassin and bounty hunter Asajj Ventress is given a new challenge at life and must go on the run with an unexpected new ally, while outlaw Cad Bane faces his past when he confronts an old friend, now a marshal, on the opposite side of the law. Jason, obviously it's great to hear your voice. I know you can hear me because I know you've had some hearing problems lately, so that's all fantastic. Yeah. What were your thoughts when this announcement sort of came out of nowhere, but we probably should be getting used to these announcements every time we're coming up to May the 4th now, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. When I saw the announcement, it was like, yes, I've been waiting for this. So I was really happy to see it. The two characters obviously being covered this time. Asajj Ventress is one of my favourite characters, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get there. Because I think from what I've seen, it's going to be after we saw her in Bad Batch. And the next one, obviously, Cad Bane, not so overexcited, but be interesting to see because obviously very popular character, very dark character. And yeah, it'd just be great to see more of these characters and also the great animation from Lucas. I do love animated series, as we all know.
Well, I think that's where I want to start the conversation. So I think, we are in the age of streaming, but I think the streaming services are all starting to learn that just because you pump millions of dollars into a product, people might watch it and enjoy it, but it doesn't mean you get new subscribers. I think Star Wars fans are already subscribed to Disney Plus, for example. And I think that's why we're seeing sort of live action shows. I know we've got Andor coming soon that everyone's very excited about, but that was 5 seasons. It's now down to 2 seasons and it's going to end. And it's hopefully going to be brilliant. I think it will be. But I think if you think about Star Wars animation, and particularly Tales of the Underworld or Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire, it's using the Clone Wars models, that design that the team already have. So a lot of these characters are sort of already designed, the models are already built. You're just adding sort of small things. A lot of the backgrounds already there, the planets, the vehicles, the weapons. I think the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus is going to be animated shows, and I think we're going to have live action in the big screen, and we might get maybe every couple of years a live action series or one-off on Disney Plus, where in the past we've had like 2 or 3 a year. So to me, it makes perfect sense. I think, every year, the guys at Lucasfilm Animation can, work on these fantastic series. Like I said, they know the animation style. They've got a lot of the assets already created. And I think that's the future. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and do you think it will go that way?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it makes sense. traditionally in the past, when you look at the old Disney sort of or the stuff they used to do on Sky in that, obviously a lot of that was all animated stuff, because obviously it's cheaper to do for them, and like you say, you've got the assets there, everything's there, um, and I just think it's a no brainer. And they've already proved with Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch. I'm not including Resistance. That they can do a good, entertaining series aimed at both youngsters and adults. It can satisfy the needs of generations, without, you know, without cutting short anything. So I think, yeah, I'm I'm enjoying now that there's also, similar sort of thing with the Predator series. They've just announced an animated um, shorts for that, and obviously Lord of the Rings. That's done similar thing, and like you say, it's an easy way it's a cheaper way to provide the stuff that can expand the stories for what we get in the movies. So it's a no brainer, really.
No, it certainly is. So we're getting 6 episodes of Star Wars Tales of Underworld. I imagine 3 will centre around Asajj Ventress and 3 will centre around Cad Bane. Let's dive into Lady Ventress herself first. So it looks like we're going to meet Lady Ventress when she's very much looking to change her life. She's maybe still bogged down by the past of being Count Dooku's former assassin. And it looks like she's going to maybe meet some old friends. She's greeted as Lady Ventress, someone who seems to know her. And, we very quickly see, looks like she befriends, I wouldn't say a Padawan, but there's a young person there who has a lightsaber in these clips, so maybe already has that by his side. Or does Ventress find him a lightsaber, I suppose. But I'm going to assume that he's wielding that lightsaber, so he's certainly had some training, we should say, with that weapon. Also looks like they're going to encounter some Imperial opposition. We see the Stormtroopers. So it looks like we're in that era where it's the Stormtrooper armor that we know from the original trilogy. Where I know in Bad Batch we've seen some instances of like the early stages of the Stormtrooper before that. I don't know what your thoughts are on the fact we see Ventress sort of encountering the Force-sensitive youngling or a Padawan, seemingly Jedi trained with a blue lightsaber, and sort of what's your thoughts on where that could go?
Yeah, obviously, it sort of picks up from what we saw in the Bad Batch. Obviously, um, Ventress was brought in to establish whether Omega um, had was like force sensitive and everything, and to sort of test her almost. So then to see that Ventress is now going down this route, because obviously we've seen her go from being this very dark, angry character. Don't get me wrong, she's still very angry, but I think now she's a character that she sees the dark side more for the dangerous and how it betrayed her. So naturally, she may not be a Jedi, but she's going to be more in tune with helping them to put down the dark side. So yeah, it looks like it could be quite an interesting. The thing is, they're very clever with these sort of things as well. That they only show us very small parts of what we're going to get in the episodes. There's 3 episodes. This to me looks like what we've seen is very much coming from one episode. So I think there's going to be more to see, and I think if they're not going to introduce Asajj in a story that's similar to Rebels and Bad Batch and Clone Wars, I think this is the way that because obviously a lot of people were like, how's she come back? She's supposed to have been killed. Are we going to see a revelation or have it revealed how she survived and how we get to this point. Because it's previously, the producer, I think, of the Bad Batch did say that is going to be explained, but at a later point. And I've got a feeling this could be the later point.
Quite possibly. We see Ventress is going to have a showdown with an Imperial Inquisitor. Which number this Inquisitor is, I'm not quite sure. Although it does look quite tense the way they've set it up. Do you think the Inquisitor is maybe hunting Asajj Ventress, or do you think the Inquisitor is on the hunt for this young Padawan with the blue lightsaber?
That's an interesting one. I've got a feeling it could be on the hunt for the young Jedi or young Force sensitive person. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see um, if they are hunting Asajj. But I'm not sure on that one.
I've got a feeling, there's a big deal in this trailer of Asajj looking to change her life and take back control of her life, it seems like, especially the way she's speaking to this stranger who seems to know her in this town um, where she lands. I wonder if maybe she's looking to sort of lay low from the Empire, like get herself back grounded and then figure out what she wants to do next. Ends up getting involved with this young Force user who has the blue lightsaber, possibly a former Jedi Padawan maybe, or former Jedi youngling maybe. And then that in turn just throws her back into the mix. And obviously, we all know from watching Star Wars Rebels, the Inquisitors very much are on the hunt for any sort of word, Jedi or Force wise, and they're on the hunt as soon as that gets fed to them. So, I can see Asajj maybe being a bit angry that she's back involved with the Empire and coming face to face with Inquisitors, but it's probably also the saving grace for this young lad that Sarge is there for him when this Inquisitor turns up. Otherwise, it could very much be a one-sided battle, I suppose. Moving on from there, obviously we have the other half of Tales of Underworld, which is of course the Cad Bane storyline. Now, this seems very interesting. It seems like Cad Bane goes back to his roots. It says it faces his past. He confronts an old friend. I don't know when this is set for Cad Bane, but it looks like he lands on a transport ship that we see in sort of Star Wars Rebels. It's very much styled around the Star Speeder that we see in the Star Tours ride. So it looks like he arrives on a transport. So, we don't see his ship. That's quite famous, the ship that you have the Lego set of. And we also don't see Todo. Todo's not there. His droid companion. So I don't know what your thoughts are on sort of how Cad Bane looks at the beginning of this trailer and sort of how it maybe seems that he's without a few things that are typically him.
Yeah, it to me looks like it could be around the time that we see Cad Bane in the Mandalorian. Not Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. So to me, I think it's more of the later life of Cad Bane than what we've seen. And as you say, some of his normal tropes are sort of missing. So I think he's going to be very much more of a lone gunman now, not necessarily working with a team. So that could be quite interesting to see where they're going with that. Because obviously, for Cad Bane to appear as he did in the Book of Boba Fett, there was a lot of questions as to how he'd ended up there and everything. So yeah, again, I'm intrigued to see where this story's taking us, but I do think that they're possibly going to be filling in some gaps, just so that to tidy up a few loose ends, maybe.
And I think we're definitely going to see some flashbacks here because we see sort of, adult Cad Bane arrive on this planet, and it looks like he's going to interact with this maybe old friend. But then it also looks like we're going to see maybe Cad Bane as a child and sort
Yeah,
of his family life and maybe what happened there from to turn into the person he is. I don't know what your thoughts were on sort of seeing maybe a young Cad Bane, maybe seeing that side of his family life.
yeah, that would be quite interesting. Obviously, you know, how did he become this quite dark character who will do anything pretty much to preserve his own life. I don't think he really cares about anyone else other than himself. So that'd be, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how does this character become that.
And one thing for me is Cad Bane's usually always working something, so I get he's come here and he is confronting his past, but is there something else there that he's trying to get? And I think that last line of dialogue in the trailer where is sort of his old friend who's now the marshal on the opposite side of the law says, "I hope it was all worth it," and he says in pure Cad Bane style, "It will be," almost as if he's playing a game here. He's came here, he's confronted this person, he's possibly been arrested, but is it all part of his game to get him somewhere?
Yeah, as you say, he's always working something. So, and obviously, if this is someone from his past, if he hasn't betrayed them, he's probably going to betray them.
No, definitely. It looks like we're going to get two key set pieces here, both duels. So it looks like Cad Bane is going to fight this marshal who he has the past with, very much how we've seen him in that deleted scene from Clone Wars where he fights Boba Fett, and also how he fought down Boba Fett as an adult in the Book of Boba Fett. Looks like he's going to have that old style West first to draw wins battle. And then on the opposite side, we again see Ventress sort of with her lightsaber drawn, the Padawan behind her, and again they sort of the Inquisitor drawing their lightsaber, and sort of them being distances apart. Don't know what your thoughts are on the fact we're going to get sort of two sort of set piece duels, probably as a sort of the possibly the end points of these story arcs.
Yeah, it again the way they've done all these series with the the different characters. There's always been some sort of obviously with the Dooku series, the Dooku episode, we had the Yaddle, Ahsoka. There was the duel. So it seems to be that. Oh, and with Morgan Elsbeth, there was, I believe, I seem to remember there was a duel there. So yeah, there's always some sort of battle and everything, or some sort of fight, or some sort of position that they get themselves into. So yeah, I think it's part of the trope now with what they've created. But I love these series, and there's so much we've said before. This can run and run. You could have tales of Jabba's palace, as they've already done in literature. You could have tales of Mos Eisley, all sorts of different things, and you could even delve into some really, you know, deep cut characters that we haven't seen for a long time. Going back to the originals. But I think because it's Star Wars, there's always going to be a battle between the main character and either a good versus evil. Yeah, I just think, and let's face it, Cad Bane in a duel is always good, and Asajj Ventress in a fight is always good.
It certainly is. As I mentioned earlier, we do see Imperial Stormtroopers, so we know sort of what era we're going to be in for some of these episodes. As we do know, though, from the past, it takes us from past, present, and future, sort of these characters' lives within canon. We also see looks like remnants from the Clone Wars, so it looks like the opening scene is sort of battle droids that have stopped working on an old Clone Wars battleground. But we also see maybe shots from the Clone Wars. We see the clone. I've absolutely forgotten the name of them, but the clone troop carriers, the Republic gunships. That's what they're called, Republic gunships. We'll see plenty of them in action. So maybe they're just left over on the Empire using them, or maybe we're going to see something from the Clone Wars. I don't know what your thoughts were. In fact, we'll see battle droids that have been deactivated. It seems like as a remnant from the Clone War. We see sort of the clone uh, troop carriers, probably gunships. Sorry, that could be from the Clone Wars. And then we see the Imperial Stormtroopers. I think we're going to see a blend of the prequel and original trilogies, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a high possibility with both of these characters. Um, sorry, I haven't done that for a while. Um, they um, they obviously both of them have have spanned the generations of Star Wars. You know, when we look at, obviously they were very much involved with the pre-Imperial, with the Clone Wars. Um, we don't really know what was happening with. Well, no, we don't know what was happening with them during the Imperial time. Um, but obviously, we know that they were about, or at least with Cad Bane, we know he was about after the Emperor because he appeared in the Book of Boba Fett. So that part of the timeline, Cad Bane especially, but I also think, with Asajj, with the storyline there, with obviously previously with Quinlan Voss and that, I think it's safe to say that her storyline will blend into pre-imperial, imperial, and even possibly post-imperial.
No, definitely. I think we are going to see that. And I also like we got sort of different aspects of the story. So it looks like we're going to see some sort of slowed down, certainly like human emotion and human drama. We see Asajj sort of speaking to this person who she may know. It looks like she's going to have a dilemma and she has to sort of look after this child and not just look after them from a point of view of keeping them safe from the dark side, but also maybe teaching them, sort of how to use the force and sort of how to find themselves in the force, especially when she's had a hard job in finding herself, like throughout, certainly as we see in Clone Wars and in the events afterwards. And then we're going to see sort of some high octane lightsaber battles. It looks like with the Inquisitor who we see, and then also maybe some. Looks like we're going to see some like Fast and Furious chase sequences involving speeders and all sorts, and Republic clone gunships and a lot of things like that. Same with the Cad Bane side. We see that family side. We're going to see flashbacks to his family life and sort of that emotion there. And then obviously we're going to see him drawing his blasters and dueling. I don't know what your thoughts are. Obviously, these are short episodes, so we only get 6 episodes and they are quite short. What's your thoughts on? It looks like we're going to get a lot of stuff: human drama, duels, and high-speed chases, all sort of blended in this perfect mix of what we want from our stories, I suppose.
Yeah, and especially with these two characters, these two are never going to stand still for long. They're either running into trouble or running away from trouble. So yeah, I think that's a go-to for and that's why I think in some ways these are two brilliant characters to have picked for this series, because there's so much you can get out of them.
There certainly is. Is there anything else about the trailer that you want to discuss before we move on to the poster?
No, I don't think so. There's obviously we saw Asajj very much as we saw her in Bad Batch, so we got that hairstyle. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what they've got to reveal for us.
I think for me, you know what I'm like, it always comes back to this, but we haven't had an Asajj Ventress figure with the yellow lightsaber yet, sort of the good side, the post Clone Wars Asajj figure. So this is a good opportunity to give us a post Clone Wars Asajj Ventress with the yellow lightsaber, with the fringe, looking awesome figure. Thank you and please, Mr. Hasbro. Moving on to the poster, Star Wars Tales of the Underworld at the bottom there in its usual font. I love the fact sort of we've inside. So in Tales of the Jedi, they were like sort of inside a silhouette of the Jedi logo. Tales of the Empire, inside a silhouette of the Imperial logo. This time, they're inside the like logo of the credits from Star Wars. And obviously, this is Tales of the Underworld. They're both former assassins and probably still both bounty hunters in one way or another. So I love the fact that we've used sort of the credit logo to talk about these guys are possibly driven by money, but also we know they're not because they have a big sense of pride as well. But yep, so I love that. And then inside of there, obviously, on one side of the credit logo, we've got Cad Bane. And then, it looks like Cad Bane looking on with his hat. Underneath, it looks like we've got an adult version of this Marshal from his past. It looks like we've got a child version of Cad in the Marshal when they were youngsters, and then it looks like we've also got possibly a very young Cad with either a mother or a father figure. And then on the other side, we have a Sarge looking on, and then again we have sort of a mother and father figure here as well. I'm not quite sure who they could be, the family of, maybe the family of this child who has the blue lightsaber. We see the Inquisitor again. We don't know which number Inquisitor this is, but they certainly are an Inquisitor and have that Inquisitor lightsaber. There's a droid of some sort, and then there's also again this young fellow who could be a Jedi Padawan with the blue lightsaber up in sort of a Jedi guard position, as we would see maybe Anakin or Obi-Wan put the lightsaber sometimes, which is why I think maybe they have had some training, and certainly from the Jedi point of view. And there's also a woman on the bottom there as well. I don't know if you've seen the poster, Jason. I just got off my descriptions, but what's your thoughts on the poster? Do you like it? What don't you like? And sort of how do you think it fits alongside the trailer?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it as we speak, and yeah, it's quite an interesting. Possibly gives a few clues. Obviously, brilliant artwork for Cad Bane and for Asajj. And yeah, just very intriguing, as you say. Um, I find it quite interesting. I'm trying to work out what the number seven appears to resemble, or is it something I've missed in the past?
I think that's just the credit logo for like Republic credits or
But
like
I
that type
did
of
wonder
currency.
that. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But no, it's just a really interesting sort of poster. Very fitting, as you say, with the logo. The logo does look really cool, and obviously, the bottom of it, you've got this dark sort of, all this grey, dirty almost. So it's like this is the underworld. This is where we're heading.
No, it certainly is. Any thoughts on anything Star Wars Tales of the Underworld you want to talk about before we move on?
No, I'm just really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to finding out what animation they chuck at us next year.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think they're super easy to watch. There's only 6 episodes. They're not too long. They're usually jam packed with story. And again, I think that the dive into that character's sort of past that we haven't seen before, the present of what we have witnessed with them before, and then they do dive into sort of where those characters are now, which I think's super interesting and really cool. And they do it in a sort of a really fast and easy way for us to digest stories, which is really cool. Moving on from that, I know it was something you were very excited to talk about. We probably would have covered it maybe last week, the week before, if we had been recording, but obviously we hadn't been. And that is the UK fan event, which is called AndMore, which looks like it's sort of a Star Wars convention that's going to dive into the Andor side of things. So, are you happy to take us away and tell us what's happening with AndMore, the UK fan event?
Yeah, this is nice and local for me, and organised by the same guys that organised the Farthest From event every no, I think it's November, December time, which is a really, really cool sort of event for collectors. And they normally have a guest that they then in the evening you can have a meal and have a speech from the guest, and then you get to meet some of the people, and it's just a really good sort of social Star Wars event. So when they announced that they were doing this Andor special, I thought, oh, this looks really good. And then they've gradually been announcing the different people that are going to be at this event. And yeah, the more I see, the more I want. Um, so I'm almost certainly going to be booking tickets once they're available. I don't think they're available yet, but you've got Jake Lunt Davies appearing, who's a concept designer. We've got Samantha Redwood, who was a senior assistant set decorator, sorry, on the Andor series. You've got Who else have we got? So we got production designer Luke Hole, and we've got Barry Gingell. I'm trying to remember all of these different people. Rob King, Dominic Sicking. I think it's Sicking. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. And last of all on the list that I've spotted that is someone I'm really love chatting to is Lee Towersey. Lee's a great guy, and also obviously was the operator of R2 on all the sequel films. Lee's obviously heavily involved with the droid builders, and I quite often catch up with him at different events. But yeah, this looks like a really interesting event taking place on the 7th of June in Fordingbridge. And it's going to be a chance to meet some of the creatives behind Andor. And personally, I've always found the creative people behind Star Wars just as interesting as any of the actors, in some ways, maybe more. I love watching the documentaries, and I'm really pleased that Light and Magic's coming back soon. So all of these people are the sort of people that you would see in these sort of documentaries. So to be able to see them up close and chat to them and be at an event where they're all going to be talking about what they did to create, let's face it, one of the best series, well, definitely Star Wars series that we've had for a long time. So all of these people coming together, and I'm pretty sure there'll probably be some more announcements as well. So yeah, if you get a chance, I'd definitely recommend it. Um, Obviously, I know for yourself, Pete, it's a bit of a way to travel for a 1 day event, but I'm hoping to be there, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of other people there.
Yeah, it is a little bit too far for me, but it sounds absolutely fantastic. And if you get to go, which I hope you do, I think absolutely can't wait to hear all about it. And anybody who can get to it, it certainly sounds awesome. And if I could and I was closer, I would certainly be trying to. Before we move into housekeeping, is there any other Star Wars news that you want to chat about, Jason?
Yeah, there's a few things that I'll bring up. First of all, I know they've just sort of announced it, and I had a sneak peek at it today. Obviously, Steve and James from Jedi News are heading off to Star Wars Celebration, and they're sort of going on tour, the Lucky Devils. So they're going via from London, obviously to Tokyo for Star Wars Celebration, and then Lucky Devils are going on to Melbourne for the opening of the Star Wars Lego exhibition. So good luck to the guys who leave tomorrow. Oh, that's right, they're going via Dubai, Vietnam. So yeah, a bit of travelling for both of them. Oh, and also I should mention James's son Jonathan, who's going very much as the technical wizard of Jedi News. And they've very I'm pretty sure Steve's somewhere behind this, but they've named it The Long Way Down, which I think is linking it to certain Obi-Wan Kenobi actor who obviously does a lot of motorbike series, which have similar titles. So yeah, good luck to the guys, and obviously sad that you and I can't be going to Celebration, but I'll very much be following it with Jedi News and everything I can find on YouTube whilst it's going on.
Yeah, I think there's some. Obviously, got friends across the Star Wars world, and I know the Sky Talker skills they're already in Japan. I think the Doki Divas have just arrived, Tori and Savannah, today as we record, or might have been the day before, but I've seen it today on social media. But yeah,
Yeah.
anybody who's traveling to Japan, obviously, I wish everybody a safe journey, a fun journey, and I hope they have the best time at Star Wars Celebration. I think My first Star Wars celebration was the one in London in 2015. Um, and then, I did Orlando, I did Chicago. I did not do the Anaheim one. Then obviously back in London did that one. Didn't do this one. I think when I missed Anaheim the first time, I really felt it, like emotionally. But I think I've now come to terms that you can't do them all, and I've been quite lucky to do quite a few. And I think in the future I will
Yeah,
still do quite a few, which is good. But like I said, you cannot
yeah.
do them all. But again, anybody who's heading out there, have a fantastic time, and I'm sure it's going to be a great event.
And
Moving on to
I'm just
housekeeping,
gonna.
Jason. Sorry,
Oh,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm also going to tell them that if you get a chance to mug Steve, not so much James, but they will be giving out patches, stickers, and trading also some rather cool Jedi News Lego bricks. So yeah, keep a lookout for Steve in particular. Will be wandering the floor, no doubt. But yeah, again, I'm gonna just voice what Pete said. Um, I'm determined that I'm going to get to go do at least one more celebration, maybe in America. But the experience I had 2 years ago, if you go in there, enjoy it and really, really savor every second of it.
Awesome stuff. Moving on to housekeeping. So, just yesterday on Saturday, I myself got myself over to the Metro Centre here in Gateshead in the northeast of England, where I got to spend some time with the Northeast Legion. So, the Northeast Legion is a Star Wars fundraising costume group based obviously in the northeast of the UK. There's not much of that going on, I think, with other groups in the area. But got to meet the guys, so thank you very much to Nigel and the rest of the crew for welcoming me to join them on sort of a troop around the Metro Centre, and got to pick their brains about what it's like, being in a costuming group, the charity work, what goes into sort of being a Star Wars costumer, and also just talking some Star Wars as well. So thank you very much, and quite possibly could be having Nigel on for an episode to dive into that in the future. They did raise £205 in one day only for the charity Mind at the Mirror Centre, which is absolutely fantastic. Taking time out their own day, their own week to sort of do this. I certainly take my hat off for that and applaud that because it's absolutely wonderful. Have you been up to much Star Wars wise over the past few weeks, Jason?
Last weekend, obviously, anyone that follows us will know that Jedi Archives, who we partner with for the Daughters to Strike Back event, have moved, and they're still in the very much setting up process, but the new home at Jedi Archives is very different to what they had at Brewery Square, but a lot of fun for anyone who loves Star Wars. And it's more of like a geek den to go and not just purchase Star Wars goodies, but very much to socialise. So it's going to be pretty cool. And on the floor below, they're also going to have the gaming area where you can become a member and have 24/7 access to go and do your Star Wars gaming whenever you want in the area with the tables and everything. So yeah, it's very exciting what's going on with Jedi Archives, and obviously they've got lots of goodies there and more goodies to come. And whilst I was there, we're very much in the plotting stages for this year's Daughters to Strike Back, and I'm just going to tease, but it's it's almost, I would say it's 99% certain now. Well, it is certain we're going to be doing a 2 day event, so you don't just get one, you get 2 days of Star Wars fun, and we've got some very exciting extra bits. And this year it will be undercover in a slightly newer venue, um, where we will hopefully have the opportunity to put on some really cool Star Wars displays with props from different people. So more news will be following. I'm hoping that we might be able to make some big announcements ready for like May the 4th, so that we've got our own specialties. But Dorchester Strikes Back is coming back bigger and better.
It certainly sounds it, and it sounds very, very exciting, and I cannot wait to hear what those announcements are as we get closer to the event at the beginning of August. Something else I've been doing, so it's been a big Star Wars weekend, I suppose, up here in the northeast of England. As I mentioned, the Northeast Legion were in the Metro Centre here in Gateshead yesterday, and then today we had a sort of retro toy and vintage toy fair at the Gateshead International Stadium, where Guns N' Roses once played, probably in the early 90s. So I did go there this morning, dragged my wife there reluctantly, but we had a good time, and I was able to pick up two things. So I did pick up Revenge of the Sith action figure. It is the Wookiee Warrior, and it was the sneak previews. I think there was 4 figures that were the sneak previews for Revenge of the Sith. This one's the Wookiee Warrior, which is number 3 of 4. The other ones are General Grievous, Tion Midian, and R4G9. So I've got my first one in the sneak previews. If you listen to the podcast before, you know I do like the sneak preview figures. Got a couple of the Attack of the Clone ones as well. But yeah, this Wookiee Warrior seems really, really cool. Got a good price on him. I believe he has been opened and he's been resealed by looks of it in his box, but it was a really bargain price, and he looks fantastic, and I'm probably going to open him anyway once I decide what I'm doing. That was a small purchase and quite cheap, and then I did make sort of a slightly big boy purchase. So Jason, I don't know, it wasn't just a Star Wars event, so there was like a lot of Hornby trains there, wrestling figures, which I do dabble in, all the new model railways, model planes, loads of Star Wars, Doctor Who, Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, old school wooden dolls, Disney pins, lots of stuff. In the very back wall, I came across a trader who seemed to have some sort of rare things, and they had a gold tin which had the Lucasfilm Limited 50th anniversary logo on it. And it has D23, the official Disney fan club, written on it as well.
Ooh.
And it's a pin set, exclusive pin set, which I believe was available at that year's D23 event. I think they were sold on Disney Shop as well, but they're all sold out. But it's a lovely pin set, Jason and listeners.
Oh.
So you get 6 pins in this set. You get 1 pin that is the 50th Lucasfilm Limited Edition logo. You get a pin that celebrates A New Hope, which is Leia putting the plans into an R2 unit. You get a pin that celebrates Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is Indiana Jones watching the diggers dig. You get a pin representing Willow in 1988. You get a pin representing Red Tails in 2012. And you get a pin representing the Mandalorian in 2019. So I did pick this up. Like I said, it was a little bit more expensive than the Wookiee Warrior, but it was still a good deal. And I say that I'll quickly check eBay and they go for like a lot more than I paid for it. I have not bought it to flip, I've bought it to keep. I'll be sharing this on social media, but what's your thoughts on my finds, Jason? Have I got a problem?
No, I think that's that's perfect. I'm really jealous because I love pin badges. So that sounds like you've just found a little pot of gold there.
I think so. So I'll be sharing those on social media. That I picked those up. I think that brings an end to the episode. Jason, any closing Star Wars ideas, premonitions, facts that you want to talk about?
I'm not going to talk about it this episode, but I think next episode is going to be a very, very fun chat about Lego. At the moment, it's been a lot of leaks. The official announcements for the May the 4th stuff is April the 15th. So we'll discuss it after that. But there are some really cool... I've seen on the internet some very cool stuff coming out for May the 4th, which I will be sadly not getting probably, but lots of goodies there, including brickheads, which are really cool. And also, if you listen or have heard in the past, or Pete, you'll remember when we were at Celebration, we met up with Ian Slater, one of our very good listeners, and his daughter Georgia. And sadly, Ian's been a little bit ill, so just sending best wishes to Ian, because I'm sure you will be listening to this episode on your road to recovery. And from both Pete and I, get well soon, buddy.
Yes, Ian, get well soon. Wishes send from up here in Newcastle down to you as well. Hope you are feeling better soon. If anybody doesn't know, Ian is actually probably one of the best musicians in the Star Wars fandom. That's just a little fact there for you.
Yeah,
Little fact there.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Some say he's even better than the original Fleetwood Mac, but that's just some people say that, not everyone, but some people have heard that said on the convention circuit. But I think that brings an end to the episode. Jason, where can people find you on social media?
I am a new addie to Blue Sky, and I very cleverly grabbed at Hondo Ling, so I don't have to change what I say. But that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. You can find myself I am on Blue Sky, as well as Twitter, now known as X, and Instagram at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can also find the podcast on X at Boars Star, actually, the other way around. You can also find the podcast on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere else at Star Wars Podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Keeps us smiling all week, only takes you a few moments, and it does help people find the show. And if you're listening on any of the other wonderful podcast applications out there, there is quite a lot of them now, and it has a feature to review. Leave us a top review, all of the stars, a lovely little sentence again, keeps us smiling all week, only takes you a few moments. And if you are leaving reviews about the podcast, make sure you share them with us on social media, and we might just send you out some goodies and share that review, which is always good. Thank you very much for listening. May the force be with you all. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.